Sam, making a quick update for the week ahead, this week of February 16th. On February 16th, Monday night, we have the great night of Lord Shiva, Maha Shivaratri. This is celebrated on the 14th lunar night of the on the waning moon, when the sun is in Aquarius, sidereal Aquarius. And this is the great night to worship Lord Shiva. And we're going to have it on Monday night, because this 14th lunar phase happens around 11:30 in the evening, and that's the time that's important when we celebrate Mahashivaratri. I recently was back and forth with my friends at the Shiva temple, the Hindu temple in Kauai, about the exact time for the celebration according to the Shiva Agamas, and it's when the 14th Titi, or lunar day, happens between 12 midnight and 1 a.m. That's the important time. So it will be the 14th lunar day on the 16th here in the west coast of the United States. So, you know, you should go to a temple and stay up all night and celebrate Lord Shiva. That's what we do on the divine night of Lord Shiva, the great night of Shiva, is we stay up all night and honor that connection to the divine, that part that's not just of this world. And there's a great story of a hunter who went into the forest on that night and lost his way back. He couldn't find his way back, and then when night fell, he was stuck in the woods, and he could hear the howling and the screams and the growls of wild animals. So he climbed up in a tree out of fear. And throughout the night, he was saying his mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, and he was sort of weeping, sort of scared and weeping, and saying Om Namah Shivaya and picking the leaves from the bilva tree. That's the kind of tree he was in, the bilva leaves. And as he was saying them, he was dropping them on the ground. And little did he know that under the tree there was a Shivalingam, which is the sacred form of Lord Shiva in the form of a Shiva Lingam, and his tears were bathing the lingam, and the flowers, the bilva leaves, are the most cherished leaf of Lord Shiva. So by the end of the night, and by the time the sun rose, he had achieved moksha, or liberation. Lord Shiva granted him liberation because of his staying awake all night and saying the name of the Lord. And this goes to show that in some ways, it's a very powerful story, because the howling animals and the howling animals shows our sort of primal fears and our primal nature. The jungle is what we find ourselves lost in. We find ourselves lost in the jungle of Maya, the jungle of illusion, and we're trying to find our way back out. And here we are, stuck and haunted by these primal fears. We cover it up usually, but on this great night of Lord Shiva, we can actually connect with that truth of the sort of terrified animal within us and climb up, ascend, and become one with the Lord in devotion to Lord Shiva, and we'll receive a blessing and a boon the next day. So, Monday night, Mahashivaratri, a great night of Lord Shiva. So then on Wednesday, the new moon in Aquarius happens after Shivaratri, after that all night of Lord Shiva. It's actually 2 days later we have that new moon. The Amavasya happens in Aquarius in Dhanishta Nakshatra. Now the new moon is when sun and moon come together, and when they do, they bring together, it's kind of like the sperm meeting the egg, and a new cycle starts for that year around that life lesson. And this is the Aquarius lesson. Aquarius is where we connect our individuality, which is shown by the sign of Leo, it's opposite Leo, with the collective consciousness. And we do this through things like altruism, service, larger, philanthropic pursuits, like things that save the planet, or where we serve things higher than ourselves. This is the highest quality of Aquarius, where we have an awareness of things that outlive us, that endure beyond just our lifetime. And so making a commitment to those kinds of things, which include like the arts and sciences and spirituality, are important in Aquarius. Now, it's much more of the world, and it's about ideas, collective ideas, things like socialism and democracy and other forms of government and whatnot have to do with Aquarius as well, where we try to set up a sort of utopian society. But we have to be careful, because in the name of utopian societies, we have things like Nazism, you know? I mean, so it can be a sort of utopic idea, but it can be also disconnected from individuals themselves. So we have to be careful and mindful of bureaucracies that sort of squelch the individual spark as we set up structures and bureaucracies that are democratic and not necessarily autocratic. Of course, the rhetoric is always that it's for everyone's benefit, but that's not always how it comes out. So these ideas, both socially and personally, can be important. It's a good time for you the next 30 days starting on Wednesday to really connect with causes that you want to serve and that you want to advance, things that will outlive you. And, you know, you can also get a, you can also see how this Aquarius cycle will affect you if you want to join my member site. Each of my members get, you know, twice a month they get a full moon and a new moon forecast just for their sign, so you can see how this will affect you. Like if you're, you know, a Cancer, this will happen in your 8th house. If you're Gemini, it happens in your 9th house. And that's very important. You know, the difference between the 9th house cycle that year and the 8th house cycle that year is drastically different. So these are the cycles that we're going through all the time in our life. And so if you want to try out that membership for only 1 penny, you can get 2 weeks of daily forecasts as well as see how this Aquarius cycle will influence you. Also, you know, this week we have both Mars and Venus have now gone into Pisces and joined the South Node Ketu. So Venus is now exalted in Pisces, where it's going to be for the next 3.5 weeks or so. And it's joined Mars, so Venus-Mars together, they'll really run up against each other this week. You know, it makes for a lot of passion, maybe a lot of sexual passion, a lot of sexual expression and dynamic, but also it can make for the sort of fiery explosiveness of individuality. You know, when Venus-Mars get together, you know, it can also make for a lack of compromise. But in this case, actually, because Venus is exalted and it's you know, it's a sort of dreamy Pisces, which is more romantic and less volatile, it could really be a week where passions run high and really connect you with your lovers in a good way. You know, often when they come together, like if they're in Aries or something, then it's very fiery and it can lead to some conflict. But in Pisces, which is very romantic, sort of dreamy and less, you know, confrontational, you may find that this week, especially later in the week, as Venus gets past Mars a little bit further, that it might be a little bit, you know, easier. But the thing to know is that this exalted Venus transit through Pisces is going to be joined both Mars and Ketu. So, you know, you want to understand that those are energies that are a little more severe. Ketu, especially the South Node, is about finding where the worldly nature of something doesn't work very well. So you might be noticing where your romantic dreams and your romance of life is falling short this week as well. And be careful not to take that out on your romantic partners. So it's a sort of tricky placement. Venus, Mars, and Pisces, sort of passionate, romantic, creative, but the South Node is also pretty intense about holding us to a higher standard. So these are a few things about the week ahead. Have a great Shivaratri on Monday night, and make sure to check out what the Aquarius cycle means for your sign. Only 1 penny for 2 weeks of forecast as well. And notice how your relationships get influenced by Mars, Venus, Ketu, and Pisces this week.